We have Kartik Jhaveri, who is the founder and director of Transcend Consulting India Private Limited. Kartik, thank you for joining us on ET Now, and thank you for all your time. Firstly, buying a house is definitely a dream for not just the Indian, it's a scenario world over. But would like to have your take on what are the extra costs that we must think about while buying a house?
Yeah, absolutely, you're right. We all tend to get lured when we open the newspaper. We see some numbers and 2 BHK for 75 and 99, and then we immediately want to go ahead and start buying something and things like that. So while these things are absolutely true, there's also a huge cost element, right? Now, most people want to buy a house taking a loan. So when they want to buy taking a loan, very often they don't even have the money for the down payment. So they borrow from friends and family or raise personal loans. That's your basic first initial cost. If you have the down payment money, great. But if you don't, that's your first cost. And then I would like to very quickly break it down into some other fixed costs, then secondary costs and tertiary costs. So your fixed costs are what? Uh, if you're buying a house for say 1 crore, assume you're going to spend 20% more. Why? Because if it's under construction house, you will have to spend on GST, which could be a hefty sum on its first right. The second thing is you are going to make your agreement, so stamp duty. Now, if your bank is not agreeing to finance the stamp duty, you will have to bear it yourself. So stamp duty itself is typically across the country 6 to 7 odd percent. GST automatically is a hefty 12%. Then you have to pay brokerage also. Most developers will charge you advance maintenance unless you're buying a resale house. But if you're buying it from a developer, most of them will want to charge you for maybe 1.5 year, maybe 2 years. They will charge you advance maintenance. All in all, the moment you start, it's about 20% more. Some houses, if they are resale, you may want to do repairs and furnishings. That's another. It's not a huge cost, but it's not a small cost either. And then now the most important thing is a lot of times, we buy properties and these properties are bare shell, or we just don't like anything that we see. So if you're going to break down everything, or if you're buying a bare shell, then there is a significant portion, at least the range of about 3 to 4,000, per square feet of your carpet area that you want to sort of estimate for doing up the house, which is to do the civil work, electrical, plumbing, if you bought a bare shell, or if you are going to completely redo the house that you're buying. So there is quite a wide plethora of costs for you. And then you need to be judicious about that because it's just not buying the house. There's also so much more which you will have to incur. And this is all pretty much in the first 6 months of your making the purchase decision. It's not something that is going to be staggered over time. So you need to have the money right now, right there.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for highlighting and breaking up that for our viewers. But now that we know what are the different type of costs that are involved and one should take into account while buying into a house, can you help our viewers know how should you go about budgeting for all this?
So, a lot of times I tend to tell younger people who are sort of, making their first investments and things like that, saying that if you need to buy a house, or if you think that at some point in time in future, or from a very long-term point of view, you're going to need a house somewhere, maybe in the city that you hail from or something like that, go ahead and do it now. Because when there are lesser responsibilities, it's okay to take a reasonable loan if your income can basically afford it. So, therefore, to be able to afford the loan, you need to be able to afford the 20% down payment. So very often I have observed that the 20% down payment is a major struggle because most people can afford the EMI. That's not a problem. The problem is that they have to conjure up that 20% down payment money for which, you don't want to go to friends to take obligations. You don't want to go to family. They may or may not want to give you. So the best way is that whatever you're earning, start contributing to a particular fund. It could be a liquid fund, very safe, or it could be equity fund if you are going to, buy it after 5, 7 years or so. But start making a monthly investment or start accumulating that money because that 20% budget or 20% down payment is your first milestone. So once you have that, then that's great. And if you are going to buy a house, if you're already saved up some money, please understand that most of the times people buy 2 or 3 houses in their lifetime. And for that, that 20% is going to pretty much take away all that you have saved. So while that is fine in buying the house, you need to have a mechanism or a preparedness that once you take away all your savings, once you liquidate everything and put it into that down payment, you immediately are in the position of starting to build up that little kitty of yours again, which means you should have the capability of making that investment again and again. Because, let's say you don't have a job, or, your job changes, your city changes, circumstances change. You need to have a backup. You can't be at zero, if you know what I'm trying to say. So when you buy a house, typically we collect all our resources from everywhere and put in that money, irrespective of the amount of loan that we want to take, whether it's 1 crore house or a 10 crore house. Often we try and contribute as much as we can from our pockets, and then the rest of it is from loan. But what we are putting from our pockets, we tend to, just clean out everything, scrape every little pot that we have. So while you do that, it's okay, but you should have a plan by which you are able to monthly invest and build up that little kitty quickly, as fast as possible.
That's the advice coming in for viewers. Firstly, is that just don't go by the paper ads on your cost of the house, because it's going to be much bigger than this. And secondly, start accumulating now for your down payments. Firstly, you have the 20% of the down payment being made. You have emptied all your resources. Then start planning on how you can quickly build up to that, and then you can go for your EMIs. But now coming to Kartik, our last point of discussion, that is on EMIs, is that how should one plan for EMIs basically, and for this also how can one take the advantage of leveraging for that, say?
Okay, so leveraging is a beautiful concept. I'll answer that in a moment, but first we'll talk about EMIs. So if you're earning 100 rupees, very simple. Ideally, you should not be spending more than 50% of your income for all EMIs. Okay, because we assume that you will need at least about 30 to 35% of your money for your personal expenses, for your living costs, and then maybe a 10-15% has to be a saving element. Because if there is no saving element in your scheme of things, then suddenly you will find out by the time you're 45 and you don't even have 45 lakhs to your name, that kind of thing. So we don't want that scenario to happen. So therefore, whatever is your income, max 50%. Now, what that means is if you are earning a lakh of rupees, the maximum EMI you should be able to absorb is 50,000. Don't go overboard, even if the bank is willing to give you. It's a healthy scenario to be at 50%. However, suppose you have a car loan. Let's say you have some two-wheeler loan, or you have some other personal loan going on. Then those EMIs are not separate. I want to put all those EMIs into that 50% bucket. But what that means is that if you're going to put everything in that bucket, then according to my suggestion, I'm only saying that you will have 50% of your money for EMIs, which means either you will have to foreclose or pay off the other loans one way or the other, or return that money or do something else. Because if you want to afford 50% of your entire income to the home, everything else must go. And vice versa, if you don't have any other loans, then maximum go up to 50%, right? That's the EMI planning that you want to look at. Leveraging. Now that's a beautiful concept. What happens is that's how you can buy your real estate for free, literally. So if you, for example, want to buy a 1 crore house and you have a 1 crore investment with you, I a lot of times suggest to people that why don't you actually go ahead and get a loan, even when you don't need it? Because a home loan is a good loan. Home loan will cost you 6-7% in today's world. So 80% of that money which you're going to spend buying a house, you take a loan, you borrow that money. Use your own 20 lakhs because you already have it. The remaining 80 lakhs, if you are willing to invest in equities for a longer period of time, for a long term, this is not speculation, no trading, no FNO, nothing like that. Okay, you take your 80 lakhs, go and invest it nicely. What will happen is over the years, that 80 lakhs will grow to such an amount that after about 9 to 10 years, that's how we've calculated, after about 9 to 10 years, your entire 80 lakhs would have multiplied so many times that you'll be able to reimburse yourself for all the interest and the EMIs that you've paid. And your capital is also with you. And therefore, your house becomes virtually free. That's a great way of buying a real estate, a great way of buying property, which you may want to exercise. There's only one condition, however, that the loan that you're going to take, you should be able to afford that EMI comfortably. Again, within my 50% rule, like I mentioned a while ago. So if you're going to take that leveraged loan, even that EMI should be within the broader framework of only 50% of your income. The other 50 should be available for your investments and for your household and living expenses. So if you can manage that, then leveraging is a fantastic way. And interest rates are now low in India. 6% is a very, very low sort of an interest rate, 6-7%. And you should consider doing something smart like that. So you've got two assets that you create at one go, which is beautiful. You have a mutual fund asset or an equity asset going up, and at the same time you have a real estate also moving up. Plus the real estate will earn you rent at some point in time. So that way you've got three little goodies for you happening all with the same money.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kartik, for highlighting us. So for our viewers, that's the breakup for the EMIs. That maximum 50% is that you should be affording on paying back the bills from the banks. And secondly, the beautiful concept of deleveraging is that, where you can have two actual assets being built up. Firstly is your mutual fund investments that can grow, and you can utilize that money paying back the home loan interest payments that are actually available quite cheap at just 6 to 7%. And thank you so much, Kartik, for highlighting this beautiful concept for our viewers and breaking up the cost for the that's actually involved in buying up a dream house for yourself.